In the previous lesson, I said that there are two reasons of a noun being in a genitive case. When a noun is in a genitive phrase, which is called jarun wa majroor. I explained the genitive phrase and the particles of jar and the construction of a genitive phrase. If you haven't watched it yet, the link of the video is in the description. I've also attached a link to download today's lesson's notes. So the other reason of a noun being in a genitive case is when a noun is in a relative phrase, which is our today's topic. The relative phrase in Arabic is called Mudhaf wa Mudhaf Ilaihi. It is also known as al-idafah, and it is used to convey possession. In other words, it shows a relationship between two nouns. I hope you're taking notes because this lesson is very interesting and very important. Let's have a look at the following English phrases. The book of Zaid, or we can say the same as Zaid's book. In both of these phrases, we see a relationship between book and Zaid, where the noun book is the possession and the noun Zaid is the possessor. The same phrase in Arabic is Kitabu Zaidin, where the noun kitab is the possession, and in Arabic it's called mudaf, and the noun Zaid is the possessor, and it's called Mudhaf Ilaihi in Arabic. There are certain rules for both Mudhaf and Mudhaf Ilaihi. Let's learn the rules of Mudhaf first. Rule number 1, it does not take tanween. Taking the same example, Kitabu Zaidin, you can see that there is only one harakah on the noun kitab, which is mudaf. So saying kitabun zaidin, where the noun kitab has tanween on it, is completely wrong. Rule number 2, it, yani mudaf, cannot be prefixed with the definite article al. For example, if I say al-kitabu zaidin, where mudaf, which is al-kitab, has al prefixed to it, is completely wrong. Rule number 3, it can take any of the three case endings. For example, in the phrase kitabu zaidin, the mudaf, which is kitab, is marfu' in the nominative case. And if a harfu jar, that is a preposition, precedes it, for example, fi kitabi zaidin, meaning in Zaid's book, the noun kitab, which is mudaf, is majroor, meaning in the genitive case because of harfu jar fi preceding it. And it could also be like kitaba zaidin, where the noun kitab is mansoob, meaning in the accusative case. I have not explained the reasons of a noun being in the accusative case yet, and we will learn it in future lessons, inshallah. Now let's learn the rules for Mudhaf Ilaihi. Rule number 1, it is always in the genitive case, meaning it is always majroor. In the beginning, I said that there are two reasons of a noun being in a genitive case. This is the second reason. That is when a noun is mudhaf ilayh. So, taking the same example, Kitabu Zaidin, you see that the noun Zaid, which is mudhaf ilayh, is majroor, meaning in the genitive case. Rule number 2, it can be definite as well as indefinite. Definite nouns are called ma'rifah and indefinite nouns are called nakirah. If you have watched my previous lessons, you should be aware of these terms. Now let's take an example. Kitabu waladin, meaning a boy's book. In this phrase, the noun walad is indefinite and it means a boy. Contrast that in the phrase Kitabul waladi, meaning the boy's book, the noun al-walad is definite because it has the definite article al prefixed to it and it means the boy. Rule number 3, it can take both tanween or the definite article al, as explained in the previous examples, where in the first example mudhaf ilayh has tanween below it, and in the other phrase it has the definite article al prefixed to it. Now let's use some relative phrases to make some sentences. Al-Qur'anu kitabullahi, meaning the Quran is the book of Allah. The relative phrase that is مضاف ومضاف إليه we see here is Kitabullah, meaning the book of Allah. And how do we know that? Because the noun kitab has a single harakah on it, and the noun Allah following it is majroor, يعني in the genitive case. Taking another example, قلم فاطمة مكسور, meaning Fatima's pen is broken. In this sentence, the relative phrase we have is قلم فاطمة, قلم فاطمة, where the noun qalam has a single harakah on it and there is no al prefix to it, so it is mudaf. And the noun Fatima following it is in the genitive case indicated by fathah, because the noun Fatima belongs to al-mamnu' min as-sarf, يعني it is a diptote, which I have already explained in one of my previous videos. And maksurun means broken, so Fatima's pen is broken. So what we learned so far is that if we have two nouns, kitabun meaning a book and zaidun meaning zaid, when these nouns come together in a relative phrase, the noun kitab will lose its tanween, leaving it with a single harakah, so it becomes kitabu. And the noun zaidun will shift to genitive case, so it becomes zaidin. And the whole phrase becomes Kitabu Zaydin, meaning Zayd's book. This rule is applicable on all the nouns except the dual nouns and masculine sound plural nouns because they end on noun. For example, if we have dual form of a noun, say Kitabani meaning two books, and the noun Zayd meaning Zayd, you see that the noun kitabani ends on noon. So when such nouns come as mudaf, the letter noon is dropped and it becomes kitaba. And zaydun shifts to genitive case and becomes zaydin, which is the same as previous examples. So the whole phrase sounds like kitaba zaydin, meaning Zayd's two books or two books of Zayd. Taking another example, qalamani meaning two pens. If I have to say Maryam's two pens, I will say qalama Maryama, where the noun Maryam is majroor, indicated by fathah because it's a diptote. Another example, baytani meaning two houses, and if I have to say Muhammad's two houses, I'll drop the letter noon in the noun baytani and I'll say bayta Muhammadin. Okay, alhamdulillah. Same happens with masculine sound plurals. For example, muslimuna meaning Muslims. If I have to say the Muslims of India, I'll drop the letter noon and say muslimul Hindi. Taking another example, banuna meaning children. And if I have to say the children of Israel, I'll say Banu Israel, where the noun Israel is in the genitive case, which is indicated by fathah because it is al-mamnu' min as-sarf, يعني a diptote. So the book of Zayd in Arabic is Kitabu Zaydin. If I have to say in the book of Zayd, I say fi kitabi Zaydin. This contains both a genitive phrase and a relative phrase. In the phrase fi kitabi, fi is harfu jar, meaning a particle of jar, and the noun kitab is ismun majroor, meaning a noun in the genitive case because of harfu jar, fi preceding it, making it jarun wa majroor, meaning a genitive phrase. And the noun kitab is also mudaf, meaning the possession because it has no al prefix to it and no tanween in the end. And the noun following it, which is Zayd, is ismun majroor because it is mudaf ilayh, meaning the possessor, making it mudaf wa mudaf ilayhi, meaning a relative phrase. This is how the analysis of sentences is done in Arabic. Finally, let's take an example from the Quran, from Surah An-Nas, the final surah in the Quran. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. The part of this verse we need to focus on is بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. This part of the verse contains both a genitive phrase and a relative phrase, that is جار ومجرور and مضاف ومضاف إليه. The relative phrase, that is مضاف ومضاف إليه, we see is رب الناس, meaning the Lord of mankind, where the noun رب is مضاف, meaning the possession, and the noun الناس is مضاف إليه, meaning the possessor. And when حرف جر با precedes it, it becomes برب الناس, where the noun رب is مجرور because of حرف جر با preceding it, making it جار ومجرور, meaning a genitive phrase. And the translation of the whole verse is, say I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind, where the part of the translation in the Lord of mankind is the translation of برب الناس. Alhamdulillah, that's it. There is more to learn about this topic. However, this information is more than sufficient in the beginning. Keep taking notes and revising, and try to find examples in the Quran. And provide me your feedback in the comments. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.